We've got some breaking news to bring you now because William and Kate have broken their silence on the ongoing revelations in the Jeffrey Epstein files.
For years, one of the most uncomfortable stories surrounding the British monarchy remained suspended in silence. Documents surfaced, questions were raised, names were mentioned, but from the very top of the royal family, there was nothing. No statements, no reactions, just distance. Until now. For the first time since the latest Epstein revelations emerged, Prince William and Catherine have spoken publicly. And what they said, and just as importantly, what they did not say, may be one of the most revealing moments in this entire saga. The statement itself was brief. Only 2 sentences, carefully chosen, measured, and unmistakably deliberate.
I can confirm the Prince and Princess have been deeply concerned by the continuing revelations. Their thoughts remain focused on the victims.
They expressed that they were deeply concerned by the continuing revelations and that their thoughts remain focused on the victims. At first glance, it sounds restrained, even neutral. But in royal language, brevity is rarely accidental. This was not a casual response. It was a strategic one. What stands out immediately is the silence around specific names. There is no mention of Jeffrey Epstein, no reference to Prince Andrew, no acknowledgement of family ties at all. Instead, the focus shifts entirely to concern and to victims. That choice matters. Historically, the royal family avoids public comment on controversies unless silence becomes more damaging than speech. And for the Prince and Princess of Wales, figures carefully positioned as the future of the monarchy. This moment marks a clear line being drawn, not between guilt and innocence, but between association and separation. By speaking now, they are not reacting to rumor. They are responding to momentum, the steady release of documents, the drip feed of revelations, and the growing sense that this story is no longer contained to the past. What makes this intervention even more significant is its timing. Prince William was preparing for a high-profile official visit to Saudi Arabia, one of the most diplomatically sensitive trips of his role so far. Any unanswered questions surrounding Epstein and Andrew would inevitably follow him. The statement then serves another purpose, clearing the path forward. But clearing the path does not mean defending the past. Royal aides made it clear that this was the first time William and Catherine had commented publicly on Epstein in any form. That alone signals how serious the moment has become. Silence was no longer enough. And yet, the restraint remains. By refusing to name Andrew, the statement avoids direct confrontation, but it also avoids protection. It neither defends nor denies. It simply steps away. This is a subtle but powerful repositioning. The future leadership of the monarchy placing moral emphasis not on institutions or family loyalty, but on victims and accountability. And that shift tells us something important. The story is no longer just about allegations or documents. It is about how the monarchy adapts when faced with sustained scrutiny, and who chooses to speak when silence becomes a liability. As the revelations continue, one question grows louder. If the future of the monarchy is already drawing its boundaries, what does that mean for those left on the other side? At this stage, the most damaging element of the Prince Andrew story is no longer what has been alleged. It is what has not been said. Silence, once a shield, has become a spotlight. While statements have emerged from Prince William, Catherine, and King Charles III, Andrew himself remains publicly absent. No interview, no direct clarification, no willingness to engage with authorities. And with every passing day, that absence reshapes the narrative. For years, the public discussion around Andrew focused on association, his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, the optics of privilege, the moral discomfort. But association, however, troubling, lives in a gray zone. What is emerging now is different. The focus has moved toward action. According to documents cited in the Epstein files, Andrew, while serving as the UK's special representative for international trade, may have shared sensitive government material with Epstein. This includes travel itineraries and official reports related to overseas trade missions in China, Vietnam, and Singapore. That detail is critical because it reframes Andrew's role, not as a private individual, but as a public office holder, acting on behalf of the British state. And that is why Thames Valley Police stepping in matters so much. This is not about reputation management anymore. It is about whether there is sufficient evidence to investigate potential misconduct in public, office, or a breach of the Official Secrets Act. These are not symbolic concerns. They are serious legal thresholds. Andrew has denied wrongdoing, and it must be said clearly, no charges have been brought. But denial alone does not resolve a credibility gap, especially when the institution itself appears to be stepping away. Royal Family insiders understand the implications. Historically, when controversy threatened the monarchy, the family closed ranks. Disputes were handled privately. Public alignment was maintained. This time, alignment is conspicuously missing. King Charles's 2020 statement, in particular, altered the landscape. By publicly stating that Buckingham Palace stands ready to support the police, the king signaled that institutional loyalty has limits, and that limit appears to have been reached. This is not emotional language. It is administrative language. It suggests preparation for scenarios that were once unthinkable. Police requests, document access, cooperation. At the same time, Andrew's living arrangements have changed. His public presence has evaporated. His titles are gone. His role is null. And yet, the questions remain unanswered. Why share itineraries? Why forward official reports? Why involve a private individual with no formal government role? These are not questions driven by rumor. They are questions driven by documents. Meanwhile, the wider royal family is moving forward. Prince William continues his international duties, meeting heads of state, reinforcing diplomatic ties. Catherine maintains her focus on public service and early childhood initiatives. King Charles positions himself as a monarch of transparency and reform. The contrast is impossible to ignore. This is no longer about defending the monarchy from scandal. It is about redefining what the monarchy stands for. And perhaps that is the most significant shift of all. In choosing cooperation over silence and distance over defense, the institution is sending a message, not just to the public, but to itself. The era of quiet containment may be over, and in its place, something far more uncomfortable has begun: accountability. As this story unfolds, one reality becomes increasingly clear. The British monarchy is not reacting. It is recalibrating. For decades, the institution survived on discretion. Problems were absorbed internally. Public statements were minimal. Time was expected to soften even the hardest controversies. But the Epstein revelations have exposed the limits of that approach. This is a story unfolding in the digital age, where documents circulate instantly, where silence is interpreted as strategy, and where public trust depends on visible action. That is why the sequence of responses matters. First, Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, speak. Carefully, briefly, and with moral clarity. Their statement emphasizes concern and centers victims, It avoids names, it avoids defense, it establishes values. Then King Charles III speaks and goes further. He names Andrew directly. He expresses profound concern. And crucially, he aligns the palace with law enforcement. This is not coincidence. It is choreography. The monarchy is drawing a line between its future and its unresolved past. Andrew, once a senior royal with diplomatic responsibilities, now occupies a liminal space. He is neither defended nor formally condemned. He exists in suspension, removed from duty, stripped of status, yet still central to the questions being asked. And those questions are not fading. Each new release of documents keeps the story alive. Each day without cooperation sharpens scrutiny. Each public appearance by other royals reinforces the contrast. The public sees movement everywhere, except from Andrew. For Thames Valley Police, the process will be methodical. Assessments, reviews, thresholds. This is not a rush to judgment. It is a procedural evaluation. But public perception moves faster than procedure. In the court of public opinion, the monarchy's response has already reshaped expectations. People are no longer asking whether Andrew embarrassed the family. They are asking whether the institution will tolerate unresolved allegations tied to state responsibility. That shift is profound because the monarchy does not exist in isolation. It exists through consent, symbolic, cultural, and moral. And that consent depends on trust. By signaling cooperation, King Charles appears to be prioritizing institutional integrity over personal loyalty. By emphasizing victims, William and Catherine appear to be anchoring the future monarchy in empathy rather than tradition. Together, these choices tell a story of transition, not just from one generation to another, but from one governing philosophy to another. The old model relied on silence. The new model relies on separation, and separation has consequences. For Andrew, it means standing alone. For the monarchy, it means redefining its contract with the public. What happens next remains uncertain. Police may decide there is insufficient evidence to proceed, or they may move forward. Andrew may choose to speak, or continue to remain silent. But regardless of outcome, the direction is already set. The palace has signaled that it will not obstruct scrutiny. The future king has signaled that moral distance matters, and the public has signaled that patience for ambiguity is wearing thin. This is no longer a single scandal. It is a test of whether an ancient institution can adapt to modern expectations, a test of whether authority can coexist with transparency, and a test of whether silence, once a royal strength, has finally become a weakness. As the story continues, one thing is certain. The monarchy has chosen its path forward, and that choice will define not just how this chapter ends, but how the next one begins. For years, the British monarchy relied on silence as a form of control. When questions became uncomfortable, time was expected to soften them. Distance was expected to protect the institution. But this story has shown us something different. When documents keep emerging, when public trust is tested, and when silence begins to look less like dignity and more like avoidance, even the most carefully guarded institutions are forced to respond. What we've seen in recent days is not a verdict. It is not a conclusion. It is a shift. Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, chose to speak about concern and victims, not family. King Charles III chose language that signaled cooperation, not protection. And Prince Andrew, once a central figure in royal diplomacy, remains silent as scrutiny deepens. That contrast is the story. Not speculation, not accusation, but positioning. The monarchy appears to be drawing a line between its future and unresolved questions from its past. Whether that line holds will depend on what happens next, from investigators, from the palace, and from Andrew himself, because silence can delay answers, but it cannot erase them. In the next video, we'll look closely at what happens if police action moves forward, what that would mean legally, institutionally, and historically for the British Crown. Until then, the question remains unanswered, not whether this story is over, but whether silence can survive in a world that no longer accepts it. What makes this moment different is not just that Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, finally spoke. It's where their words sit in the wider royal response, because this statement did not appear in isolation. In the days leading up to it, the pressure on the monarchy was already building. The release of new Epstein-related documents had reignited questions that many believed had been quietly buried. Emails, itineraries, timelines, all circulating again, all pointing back to a familiar name, Prince Andrew. For years, the palace strategy around Andrew had been containment. Remove duties, strip titles, limit visibility, let time dull the outrage. But time hasn't dulled anything. Instead, the focus has shifted. And that shift is crucial. This is no longer a story about reputation alone. It is now about accountability and how far that accountability reaches. When Kensington Palace released the statement on behalf of William and Catherine, royal aides were careful. They did not deny allegations. They did not defend Andrew. They did not mention Jeffrey Epstein by name. And they did not acknowledge family connection. That silence is not weakness. It is positioning. Behind the scenes, officials were keenly aware that Prince William was about to arrive in Riyadh, meeting Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman on behalf of the UK government. The visit was already sensitive. Human rights concerns, diplomatic optics, global scrutiny, all of it meant that William would be under a microscope. Any unresolved controversy tied to Epstein and Andrew would follow him. So the palace acted, but not in the way many expected. Instead of issuing a defensive response, they chose moral alignment, concern, victims, distance. This matters because William is not just another royal. He is the future king, and future kings do not speak casually. Every word, every omission, every carefully chosen phrase is read as intent. By centering the statement entirely on victims, William and Catherine aligned themselves with public sentiment, not royal tradition. Historically, the monarchy avoids appearing to take sides. This time, the emotional direction is unmistakable, and it quietly leaves Andrew standing alone. This becomes even more significant when you consider what happened next. As William carried out his duties in Saudi Arabia, the story did not disappear. Journalists continued asking questions. Analysts continued connecting dots. And behind the scenes, a more dramatic development was unfolding back home in Britain. For the first time, Thames Valley Police confirmed they were assessing whether there were grounds to investigate allegations against Andrew, not related to sexual misconduct, but to potential misconduct in public office and breach of official secrets. That distinction is critical. This isn't about social association anymore. This is about the possibility that a senior royal, acting as the UK's trade envoy, may have shared confidential government information with Jeffrey Epstein. If proven, that changes everything, and while Andrew has consistently denied wrongdoing, the optics are devastating. Which brings us back to William and Catherine's statement. Seen in this context, it reads less like a reaction and more like preparation. Preparation for questions. Preparation for consequences. Preparation for a future monarchy that cannot be tied to unresolved scandals of the past. Royal insiders understand this. So does the public. And perhaps most telling of all is who else has spoken. Because shortly after William and Catherine's statement, King Charles III himself intervened, issuing what royal correspondents described as an unprecedented declaration of concern over his brother's conduct. That is not coincidence. It is sequence, and sequences tell stories. The monarchy, often accused of silence and delay, is now speaking in layers, carefully, deliberately, and with growing clarity. The question now is not whether Prince Andrew will respond. The question is whether the institution has already moved on without him. When King Charles III chose to speak, the language he used sent shockwaves far beyond Buckingham Palace. Royal statements are traditionally cautious, vague, and designed to say as little as possible. But this time, the words were stark. The king expressed his profound concern over allegations relating to the conduct of his brother, Prince Andrew, and made it clear that Buckingham Palace stands ready to support the police if approached. That phrase, "stands ready to support," is not symbolic. It is procedural. It signals cooperation, not protection. For a reigning monarch to publicly state this about his own brother is extraordinarily rare. Royal historians struggled to find modern parallels, and senior correspondents at the BBC openly described the intervention as unprecedented. Why does this matter? Because until now, Andrew's position, however diminished, still rested on one assumption: that the institution would shield him from formal exposure. That assumption is now gone. The moment the palace aligned itself publicly with law enforcement, the dynamic changed. This was no longer a family issue. It became a matter of state. And once again, context is everything. The police interest does not focus on past allegations of sexual misconduct, areas where legal outcomes have remained complex and contested. Instead, the focus is on Andrew's time as the UK's Special Representative for International Trade and Investment. According to documents cited in the Epstein files, Andrew allegedly shared sensitive travel itineraries and confidential reports with Jeffrey Epstein during official overseas trips to China, Vietnam, and Singapore in 2010. Some reports suggest that official briefings were forwarded within minutes of being received. If substantiated, this could potentially constitute misconduct in public office, a serious offense. Andrew has denied wrongdoing, and it is important to state clearly: being named in documents is not proof of guilt, but public perception does not wait for verdicts. And perception is where the monarchy lives or dies. This is why the responses from Prince William, Catherine, and King Charles must be read together, not separately. They form a narrative arc. First, the future of the monarchy speaks, emphasizing victims and concern. Then, the present monarch speaks, emphasizing accountability and cooperation. At no point does anyone speak in Andrew's defense. That silence is louder than any statement. Meanwhile, Andrew himself remains largely absent from public view. He has not agreed to speak to authorities. He has not addressed the latest allegations directly. And with each new document release, that absence grows more conspicuous. Royal commentators have noted that Andrew has already been stripped of his titles, military affiliations, and public role. He no longer represents the crown in any capacity. But this moment suggests something deeper. It suggests that the monarchy is no longer willing to carry unresolved risk. For Prince William, This is about legacy. For King Charles, it is about stewardship. And for the institution itself, it is about survival in an age where secrecy is no longer tolerated. The Epstein revelations have exposed more than documents. They have exposed the limits of silence. And perhaps that is the most important shift of all. Because once the palace publicly distances itself, once it signals cooperation with investigators, there is no return to the old ways. The monarchy moves forward. History remains behind. And as this story continues to unfold, one reality becomes unavoidable. The crown is choosing its future, even if that choice means leaving someone behind.